right, so here we go. So it just wants us to complete this really quick. It says Mr. Tyson takes his dog Zeus for a walk following the same route just about every day. The duration of the walk follows an approximately normal distribution with a mean of 20 minutes and a standard deviation of 2. And so it asked me to draw the normal curve. So let's do that. What does the normal curve look like when we draw it? It's that bell curve, right? And then what always goes right in the middle? The mean. So right in the middle, and what's that weird letter we use? Yeah, it's like a fancy U. Okay, call it mu, and that's where we're going to put 20. And then we use our standard deviation how many times? 3 each direction. Okay, when I go forward, I use my standard deviation. Do I add it or subtract it? Add. So I'd have 22, 24, and 26. And then when I go backwards, 18, 16, and 14. Okay. Now, it asked me for a percentage this time, and it's just been a minute, so we'll kind of walk back through those. You remember on Friday we talked about the percentages of all the slices. Okay. Does anybody remember the biggest piece? Starts with a 3. 34.1. Okay. What about the next one? It's close. 13.4. And then 2.2 and 0.1. Okay, now the good news is we don't have to remember those, right? But that's what they represent. Each slice represents a percentage. And so let's talk for just a second about the question that it's asking me. Those same percentages are true on the opposite side of the curve. Okay, so if they're true on one side of the mean, they're also true on the other side. It asked me on this question, what percent of these walks last less than 18 minutes? Okay, so here's 18 minutes. If I want to be less than that, is that to the left or to the right? Yeah, less is left, okay? So what we want to do is we want to think about those individual pieces and add up the percentages. So if we look at this little bitty piece right here, what's it going to be? What percentage? 0.1, it's going to match. What about the one next to it? 2.2, and the one next to that? 13.4. And so if I want to get my total percentage, all I got to do is add up those. Okay? So that'd be 15.6, so 15.7%. Okay? Now, the good news is what we're going to talk about today is we're not going to have to remember those percentages, right? The applet's going to do it for us and give us that percent, which I'm really happy about, all right? So it's going to take us a lot less time to do it. All we'll have to do is to know which way are we going. Are we going to the left? Are we going to the right? Or are we going between two numbers on the normal curve? So it works pretty nicely while we're doing that, okay? All righty then. So y'all, let's switch over to our notes for today. Here's our learning targets. All right. What are we going to do? We're going to find the proportion of values to the left, to the right, and between two numbers. Okay. We just did one. That was to the left. Okay. We're going to use our applet to help us do that. And so if you look at that, so we're still talking about Marty and Back to the Future. Okay, and it says, after accelerating for 20 seconds, the DeLorean sports car has a wide range of speeds that it can achieve depending on its traction. The distribution of speed follows an approximately normal distribution with a mean of 80 and a standard deviation of 7.7. Okay, so I would put that 80 in the middle, so we know that would go there. We're going to let our applet do the rest for us. Okay, we're going to let our applet do the rest of this for us. So if you would, let's go to statsmedic.com/applets. Okay, and we're going to let it label based on what we have here, a mean of 80 and a standard deviation of 7.7. Okay, so we're going to let it do the hard work for us. And we'll be flipping back and forth quite a bit today. All right, so statsmedic.com/applets. Which one are we going to choose this time? Normal distribution is the first one under probability. Okay, so we're going to choose normal distributions. And when I put it there, I put the mean in, which was 80, and the standard deviation, which it told me was 7.7, and we asked it to plot it. Okay, and that's nice because it gives me those numbers that go there on the bottom of the curve. So fill those in for me real quick. Okay, so on your notes, let's fill in those numbers: 87.7, 95.4, 103.1 if we're going to the right, and then 72.3, 64.6, and 56.9 to the left. Okay, so write those in. Let me show you how nice this is. All right, so let me copy mine over on my notes now. So we've got 87.7, 95.4, and 103.1. Thank you to whoever brought Kleenex yesterday. Found them this morning when I got here. And 56.9. Okay, so we're just going to leave that there. All right, now question number 2 are the kind of questions we're going to be answering today. All right, Rebecca. Thank you. All right, says what percent of the runs will give the DeLorean a speed greater than 87.7? Okay, so when we're thinking about these problems today, we know 80's in the middle. Where's 87.7? To the left or to the right? It's to the right. And if I want to do things that are greater than 87.7, which way would I color my curve? To the right or to the left? To the right. Okay, so I'd color it right in there. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Go back to your applet, and this is the part where you have to know. Okay, if we go back to our applet, right, it's still there. Underneath our curve, do you see where it says calculate the area? All right, that's what that percent is. But here's the deal. I'm not picking 2 numbers. I'm going to the right of a value, okay, because I wanted what was on the right-hand side. What was that number? 87.7, and we're literally just going to type it in, okay? And so we calculate the area, and what percent does it give me? 15.87. It'll tell me. Okay, so what I have to know is, am I going to the right of the number they give me? Am I going to the left, or am I going between the 2 numbers that they give me? Okay, and that's the only thing we're going to change. Is under that area menu, we're going to change it to right, left, or in between. All right, which is really nice. And so then we can come back and record our percentage as 15.87%, which is really nice. Okay. So let's look at the next one. It says, what percent of the runs will give the DeLorean a speed between 64.6 and 87.7? And so if we think about our curve, we know 80's in the middle. All right, 64.6, 87.7. And I want the area that is between those 2 values. So guess which option we're going to pick on the applet? Between 2 numbers. Okay, it's really that simple. Okay, between 2 numbers. So we'll go back to our applet. We'll change the drop down menu to between. Our right boundary was 64.6. Our left was 87.7. We calculate the area, and what do we get? Yeah, not worried about the z-score. I'm talking about the area. 81.86. Okay, and so we just write that percent down. Oops, let me not use that. Okay. Here we go. 81.86%. Okay, let's do one more. All right, and this is legit everything that it's about. Okay, now this is where it gets a little tricky. Okay, not always, but you just got to read it a little bit. It says, what percent of the runs will give the DeLorean a speed less than 68.45? Now, here's the problem. Do you see 68.45 on my curve? All right. So we just have to know, where is 68.45? Well, it's over here to the left. And if I want it to be less than that, which way would I shade? To the left. Okay. So less than, we would shade left. Greater than, we would shade right. Okay, so that we know which option to choose on our applet. Okay, so that's where the reading part comes in, just knowing what it's asking for in those little moments. Okay, so if I switch back over, and it's 68.45, we're going to change it to the left. We're going to put in that one number. 68.45. We're going to calculate the area. There is my percentage, 6.68. Okay? What do you think? Not too terrible, right? It's just letting that applet. Aren't you glad we don't have to remember the percents and add them? Yeah, it's just going to do it all for me, which is really nice. Okay? So we would get, I already forgot, 6 point something. Thank you, Lord, my brain. Okay, it's doing the best it can. So all we have to check today, am I going to the right? Am I greater? And am I going between two values, or am I going to the left? And that's all 3 learning targets for today. Okay, it really is. It's really that simple. All right. So that being said, let's skip that page. Let's switch to this one. All right. So we're going to skip that whole back page. All right. And just to remember, okay, that we're going to, under your applet, under probability, and then normal distribution. That's the applet we're going to use. Okay, so we want to be sure that we're using the right one every time. So in our applet, probability, and then choose the one that says normal distribution. Okay. We'll always input the mean and the standard deviation. Okay, so that's the information that we have to tell it. All right, the mean and the standard deviation. Right? So now let's talk about our areas. Okay, learning target 1 was area to the left. Right, so we're going to change that drop-down menu to the left. And it would look something like this. Okay, left would be less than. Okay, so less than a number. Learning target 2 is our area to the right. So it would be something that was greater than a certain number. And then learning target 3 would be our area between 2 numbers. Okay, and you'll always know to use that one because they'll give you 2 numbers. Right? So you have to change that drop-down menu about what you're calculating, okay? So it helps me to be able just to kind of sketch the curve and know which way am I shading, to the left, to the right, or between. You could even do it with just a number line and just kind of, so as a note to yourself which way you're going to move, all right? The only other thing that I would say is if it asks for a percent, life is good. But if it asks for a proportion, they want a decimal. So if they ask for a proportion, change the percent to a decimal. Yep. We just divide by 100. Okay? So if a question ever asks for a proportion, take that percentage you see and then change it to a decimal, divide by 100. That's all we have to do. Okay, so let's do these 3 examples that are right here. Then hopefully when we get back on lunch, we'll be good to go. All right, let y'all practice. All right, pretty straightforward today. All right, so on this example, it says high levels of cholesterol in the blood increase the risk of heart disease. Anybody know anybody that's got high cholesterol? That was me. Yeah, before surgery, I've been able to come off my medicine, so that's good news. High levels of cholesterol in the blood increase the risk of heart disease. For teen boys, the distribution of blood cholesterol is approximately normal, with a mean of 151.6 milligrams of cholesterol per deciliter of blood, so milligrams per deciliter, and a standard deviation equal to 25 milligrams per deciliter, okay? So those were the 2 values we need to be able to set up our curve, all right? So the first thing it says is about what proportion of teen boys have cholesterol levels less than 100. So think with me for just a second so we know which option to choose. What was my mean? 151.6. It's going to be in the middle of my curve, okay? It's asking me about levels less than 100. So where would 100 be? To the left. And if I want to be less than that, I'm going to color which way? To the left. So when we jump in there to set everything up, we're going to choose to the left, all right, in our applet. So let's get in there and let's find that percent, okay? So if I jump over to my applet, let's go back up here, and I'm going to change the mean. It was 151.6, and my standard deviation, 25. Okay, and we're going to plot it. So notice it changes everything for me. My menu, we said we're going to go to the left, so I want to be sure I'm on the right one. Then I'm going to change that. What was my number we were checking? 100? Okay, and calculate it. What's my percent? 1.95. It's right there. Okay, 1.95%, which is really nice. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, it says cholesterol levels of 200 or higher are considered high for teenagers. What percent of teen boys have high cholesterol? So again, let's just look at it. I've got 151.6. Where would 200 be? To the left or the right of that? To the right. And I want it to be higher than 200, so which way would I color? To the right. Okay, I would color to the right. So we jump in there. Same information, which is nice, but we're going to change our drop down to the right. We're going to make it 200, and we're going to calculate that area. What's my percent? 2.64. Okay, so 2.64%. Okay, makes sense? Really straightforward today. That's why I really like this applet. Okay, all right, last one. Since cholesterol levels between 170 and 200 are considered borderline, what percent of teen boys have borderline high cholesterol? So think about that. We know 151.6 is in the middle, but this time it gave me 2 numbers, 170 and 200. They both happen to be above, right, or to the right, but I'm interested in the area between those 2 numbers, okay? So they don't have to be on opposite sides of the mean in order to do between 2 numbers, okay? So I've got 2 values there that I'm considering. I'm going to jump over to my applet and change that to between. So between 2 values, it's going to automatically shift there. And I have 170, nope, not that. 170, I don't know what that was, but it wasn't 170. And 200. And we calculate our area, and we get about 20.44%. Okay? What do you think? Not so bad? Okay. Well, good. That was the plan. But you wouldn't think it was bad. All right. So this one was to the left in our drop down. This one was to the right. And this one was between. Okay, so that's the main thing we've got to be able to do is just recognize which way are we going in the problem, to the left, to the right, or between, all right? Now, what's crazy about this applet is it does lots of things, and tomorrow we're going to look at some of the more powerful things it will do, so it'll get a little more complex than what we're doing today, all right? So, and that'll be our last lesson for this unit, which is good news, okay? Let me see what else I got on here. I don't think I have much. All right, we don't need this today. We'll use that tomorrow. Okay, yep, that's it. All right, so what we'll do is we will go to lunch here in just a second, and then when we get back, we'll start on our practice, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, I think it's like 5 or 4 questions. I'm not sure. They did a practice that's on Achieve that says extra practice 2.1, 2.3. Yes, yeah, that's what they worked on yesterday. I was out yesterday, too. Mm-hmm.